You ever notice how the woods seem different at night? Like during the day, everything feels normal. Birds chirping, leaves rustling in the breeze. But once the sun dips below the trees, it's like the whole forest starts holding its breath. You can feel it, can't you? That heavy silence, that creeping sense that something is watching. Let me tell you a story. But be warned. Once you hear it, you might never sleep the same way again. I raced through the hospital corridors, my heart pounding against my ribs. I was supposed to be heading home by now, but my phone had buzzed with an urgent call. An emergency admission unlike anything they had ever seen. When I pushed open the door to the private room, I froze. A cold weight settled in my stomach. I'd treated severe burns before, but never like this. The woman on the bed was barely recognizable as human. Her entire body was charred black, her skin cracked open like burnt earth, oozing blood and pus. The stench of scorched flesh mixed with the sterile hospital air, making my stomach turn. But what disturbed me even more was the way she moved. Two of the largest male nurses I knew were struggling to keep her restrained. Despite her condition, she thrashed with unnatural force, her raw, blackened fingers curling like claws. There was no way she should have been able to fight back like this. Her muscles should have been too damaged. The pain alone should have been crippling. Yet she fought. "Let me go," she shrieked, her voice hoarse and ragged. "I can't stay here. He'll come back for me." Her eyes, milky white and wide with terror, locked onto mine. I had seen victims of trauma before, the way their minds sometimes shattered under the weight of pain and fear. But this felt different. One of the nurses, a man named Carter, turned to me, his face pale and tense. "Doctor," he said, his voice strained. "She keeps giving us false details. We think it's the trauma talking, but it's not just that. She insists she's dead." "Dead?" I repeated, a shiver creeping up my spine. The woman suddenly went still. Her lips curled into a sickening grin, her burnt skin cracking as she spoke. "Date of birth, June 12th, 1972, she rasped. "Date of death, June 5th, 2016. My breath caught in my throat. June 5th, 2016. 9 years ago. The nurses tightened their grip as she began to struggle again. "Let me go," she howled. "He's coming. You don't understand. He's coming." My instincts told me to sedate her, to calm her down before she injured herself further. But something about the way she screamed, about the pure terror in her voice, made my hands tremble. I took a slow step forward. The floor felt uneven beneath me, like I was stepping into some kind of nightmare. "What are you?" I heard myself whisper. Her movements ceased instantly. The room went deathly quiet. Even the monitors, beeping steadily just moments ago, began to slow, their rhythm fluctuating unnaturally. The screen glitched, as if struggling to display a heartbeat that wasn't really there. She turned her head toward me, her neck cracking unnaturally as she met my gaze. Then, in the calmest voice I had heard from her yet, she spoke. "My name is Elizabeth Mejia. I am the first person to escape from hell." I was sitting alone in my living room last night, the soft glow of the television flickering against the walls. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, aside from the low hum of late-night infomercials droning on in the background. I had been dozing off when I heard it, a slow, deliberate scraping against the hardwood floor. My stomach tightened. It wasn't the house settling, and it wasn't the wind. It was deliberate. I sat up, my senses suddenly alert. The sound had come from near the front door, or so I thought. I turned my head just in time to see something small and white slipping out from underneath. A note. Someone had pushed a note under my door. A chill ran down my spine as I slowly got to my feet. My heartbeat pulsed in my ears, my skin crawling with unease. Who would leave a note like that? And at this hour, I hesitated before stepping forward, my bare feet pressing against the cold wood. I knelt down cautiously and picked up the small folded piece of paper. It felt rough in my hands, the edges creased as if it had been clenched too tightly. The paper itself was dry but slightly smudged, like someone had written on it in a hurry. I unfolded it with trembling fingers and stared at the message inside. 5 words, scrawled in jagged, uneven letters. Get out. He is coming. My breath hitched in my throat. For a split second, my mind raced with possibilities. A prank? Some kind of mistake. Then in that moment of dawning horror, I realized something that made my stomach drop. I had been looking at the wrong door. This note hadn't come from the front door. It had come from under the closet door. My blood ran ice cold. The closet was barely 3 feet away from me, a door I hadn't opened in days. At least I didn't think I had. I tried to remember the last time. Had it been last week? A few nights ago? Why couldn't I recall? A floorboard creaked inside. I stumbled backward. My breath caught somewhere between my lungs and my throat. My hands shook as I reached for my phone, my fingers fumbling to dial 911. My eyes stayed locked on the closet door, wide with dread, waiting, dreading, to see if it would move. I didn't sleep in my house that night. When the police arrived and pried open the closet, they found nothing inside. No footprints, no forced entry, just a dark, empty space. But the note was real. I still have it. And sometimes, when the house is silent and the air feels too still, I swear I hear that same slow scraping across the floor. Only now, it's closer. A few months ago, a friend of mine, a passionate nature photographer, set out on a solo trip deep into the woods outside our town. She wanted to capture wildlife in its purest form, unbothered by human presence. She wasn't new to this. She'd camped alone plenty of times before. She wasn't afraid. She should have been. She spent the day hiking, setting up her tent in a quiet clearing and snapping photos of the serene wilderness. Sunlight filtered through the canopy above. Birds flitted between the trees, and everything was peaceful. She went through 4 rolls of film, documenting every detail. Blooming flowers, a distant deer, even the way the mist clung to the trees at dusk. As night fell, she settled into her tent, exhaustion overtaking her excitement. The last thing she remembered was the rhythmic hum of the forest, the whisper of wind against the fabric of her tent, and the comfort of knowing she was utterly alone. Or so she thought. Days later, when she developed the film, something was off. Almost every picture was accounted for. Almost. Except for one photo, one missing shot from each roll of film, 4 missing photos. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Maybe the rolls hadn't developed properly, or maybe she'd miscounted. But then she looked closer. The missing photos weren't missing. They had been replaced with pictures of her, asleep in her tent. The images were taken from outside, through the thin fabric of the tent. The dim glow of moonlight barely illuminated her face. Her body was curled in her sleeping bag, her chest rising and falling in peaceful, ignorant slumber. But she hadn't taken them. She'd been alone. Her hands shook as she flipped through them, heart hammering, nausea twisting in her stomach. The realization settled over her like ice. At some point in the night, someone had stood outside her tent, close enough to unzip it, close enough to press the shutter button. close enough to watch her sleep. She scrambled to recall every moment of that night. Had she heard anything? Had she felt a presence? But the night had been quiet, too quiet. The rhythmic hum of the forest, the occasional rustle of leaves. Nothing had seemed wrong, and yet someone had been there. Shaken, she checked her gear, her tent, her camera bag, everything she had brought with her. Nothing was missing. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, just the photos. She never went camping alone again, and to this day she wonders, was it a person or something else?